Welcome to Real Talk for New Agents, the podcast where we dive deep into what they didn't teach you in real estate school. I'm your host, Sarah White, a seasoned real estate broker, mentor, and your go-to guide for navigating the roller coaster of starting your career in this exciting but sometimes challenging industry. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by lead generation, struggled to find your footing, or questioned whether you even have what it takes to be in this business? Trust me, you're not alone. Each week, I'll cut through the noise with real-life tips and strategies so that I can help you build the confidence, skills, and systems you need to thrive. So grab your coffee, get ready to take notes, and let's tackle this journey together. This is Real Talk for New Agents. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk for New Agents. I am your host, Sarah White. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Janelle LeBlanc. Janelle works with Real Brokerage, and she has such a great story. And today, she's agreed to come on here and share what she has learned with us as a new agent herself. Welcome, Janelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I love chatting about this. It's one of the topics that I'm so passionate about. And if my experience can help anyone out there, I'm happy to share.
Well, let me give my audience a little bit of a background so that they understand. Now, Janelle has an amazing background and a vast knowledge of sales and marketing and running her own business. And when we were talking, what I loved about your story was that you just took everything you knew from running your own business right into real estate. And, you know, they always say you've got to run this like a business, and that's exactly what you did. So let's dive in and tell me, when did you start selling real estate? What year did you start?
So officially January 24th of last year. So 2024. It's been just over a year now.
Okay. And one of the things we talked about, that was one of my core things with my introduction video for my podcast, was picking a brokerage and how, you know, that was such an important key. And your story was fantastic. And I thought, I've got to bring you on here so that you can tell my audience how you went about selecting your brokerage and why you feel that it's so important. And I mean,
Yeah.
let's just dive right into that.
Yeah, of course. So while I was in the midst of completing my course with Humber College, I really felt that it was important to take the necessary steps in other aspects of my business, other than just sitting in front of my computer screen all day, which is very difficult for me to do. And I think the quality that most real estate agents have is that they're so active and they love to have multiple things on the go at the same time and juggling multiple things. So to have to sit down in front of your computer to complete the course can be very monotone. So what I did is that, I wanted to work my way towards creating a business plan. And not being in the industry, you need to know what you even need to look for in a brokerage. So I met with a number of various realtors in my community to pick their brain, to ask them, about their personal experience with their brokerage, but also, what are the things that what's the advice that they would offer to a new agent? And I think that for people who are thinking about getting into real estate, I would highly encourage to have those discussions, to have those conversations, because to be able to have the knowledge of someone who's already in the industry and what they may do differently than what they've done in the past, or what they would hope and wish for now, really helps in guiding you in trying to figure out um, what are the right criterias that are the
Yeah.
best match for my personality that will enable me to really blossom and grow in my real estate business. So that's what I did. I set out to meet with as many real estate agents as possible, which is also really great for networking because you need to
Yes.
know your colleagues, right?
Yes.
Um, and so I set out to really work to network with as many real estate agents as possible. But then I also started meeting with teams and brokerages, because every single brokerage functions differently, has a different culture. And the same thing goes for teams. So you need to figure out, before you can commit to something, you need to know what's out there, and also to discover what are the important values or factors that you're looking for that will help you in your business.
And you did that by creating a checklist. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was brilliant. A lot of the times we go in to meet with people and, we fly by the seat of our pants. And I think making this decision is crucial for new agents because it can really make or break you. You need support and you need to know that, like you said, you're going to be the right fit. Not only do they need to hire you, but you need to interview them as well.
Yeah.
So tell us about your checklist.
And 100% the checklist really is helpful in a way that it enables you to really stay on track, because if you happen to mesh really well from a personality standpoint with the person in front of you, the conversation can very easily veer off into personal stories and personal likes to really kind of create that bond. And you'll leave the meeting feeling great about the connection that you've just made. However, you may not have really dove in to the facts that you need to know to be able to make a proper decision for your business. Of course, you want to work with people that are trustworthy, that you like, and that you mesh with. But at the same time, what was really important to me, so number one is to make sure that the brokerage that I associate myself with has a very strong broker of record who is available. So with that, it's quite easy for real estate agents to go and look at various brokerages and tap into or reach out to the various real estate agents that work for that brokerage and ask them firsthand, what is that like? What is accessibility like? And not only that, but being a real estate agent, Sarah, I'm sure you can attest to this. There's some very important legal implications
Yes.
there, and it's really important to have a broker of record that has the necessary knowledge and experience that will help you guide you properly and protect you in those interactions and transactions with clients.
Yeah.
So number one, a strong broker of record was really, really important. And then it's also a matter of making sure that you also will have a good cultural fit
Yes.
with the group and the team as well. And as a new agent, the support for new agents. So, really making sure that they have a training plan, that you will get the kind of mentorship that you're looking for to be able to help guide you in that first, especially the first year.
Yeah.
It's a huge learning curve, and it's really important to instill good working habits. So, having the proper team or group around you by the people that you surround yourself with, that's what really will enable you to rise.
Yeah, and I unfortunately went through the school of hard knocks. The day that I started, I showed up at the office and my broker of record, who was also the manager, he was the only one there, went
Mhm.
on vacation for 3 weeks. And the admin basically, yeah, showed me to my desk. And I had a desk and a phone. And, this was 15 years ago. So it's definitely changed, I think, a little bit, but yeah, no guidance whatsoever. And just thinking back on that makes me cringe because I cannot imagine that happening today. Like, you would be out of the business. I'm surprised I lasted 15 years after that introduction, right?
Well, and I definitely have heard, unfortunately, that is some people's experience when they first get into the business. And, they say baptism by fire sometimes is the best way. However, there is so much to know and to learn how
Yeah.
to prospect, how to market, how to, and even the operational side of transactions as well. There's so much that you need to be able to master in that first little bit. So I can't even imagine to be left to your
Oh, I
own
know.
demise
I
in
know.
that
And
way.
that frustrated me and kind of brought me on this new path of dealing with new agents because I thought nobody should have to ever go through that. And in reality, sometimes your broker owner is really just looking at numbers, and you have to really sit down and figure out what their intention is, because there are brokerages that just want to deal with people who have experience, and then there are
Mhm.
brokerages that are all about culture and getting together and helping one another succeed. And
Mhm.
it's very important that you pick the right brokerage. So I think you did that.
Yeah.
And so tell us, if you don't mind, how did you do your first year?
So my first year, it actually, it was just head down, and what's the saying, nose to the ground. So my first year I wrapped up with 15 transactions.
That
Um,
is amazing. Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations. That's so
Thank
good.
you.
And what's your average price point in your market?
So the average price point in our market, so I trade in the Burlington, Hamilton, Niagara area. I do touch West GTA as well.
Yep.
So the average trading price point in our market is anywhere between, I'd say 950,000 to 1.5.
So that's
Um,
amazing. And do
mhm.
you attribute that to surrounding yourself with those agents before you started and getting to know them and networking a little bit and making sure that you picked the right brokerage? Do you think that you would have gotten the same success had you not picked the right brokerage?
Absolutely not. There's no doubt in my mind. The one thing that resonated from so many of the conversations that I've had, and sorry, I say absolutely not. In a way, Sarah, like I mean, I absolutely would not have accomplished what I accomplished had I not done the necessary research leading up to my
Yeah.
selection of brokerage, and paying attention to what was happening. Because when I was looking at Real was a relatively new brokerage within Canada. So of course, begged the question: do they have the necessary resources to be able to mentor a new agent?
Yeah.
And as you touched on this a little bit earlier on, there's a lot of brokerages that unfortunately you kind of have to prove yourself before you
Yeah.
get any attention from anyone,
Yeah.
because the facts are that, I think it's 85% of agents in the first 2 year end up leaving the industry.
Yeah.
It's definitely very challenging. And I think that should it have not have been from the research and the discussions that I had with the agents prior to acquiring my license and making my selection for a brokerage, it would not have led me into the confidence also that I had in selecting Real Broker as my
Yeah.
brokerage.
Yeah.
So
You put
the
in the
culture,
work. You put in the work.
yeah,
You really
yeah,
did, because you were still taking the course and you were operating out of a place of business. You were like, this is my career. This is the business I'm going into. What do I
mhm,
need to know? Who do I need to talk to? And, what's important to me
mhm.
going into this,
Yeah,
right?
and that's very important. You need to understand what your personality traits are. Everyone learns differently, and everyone also works differently. So what I really loved about Real is the community that it has, and the collaboration that it's created, and it's really ingrained into the culture from the president down. So I was lucky enough to meet with a few agents who had already worked for Real for about a year, who were able to provide me with a little bit more information about the company and understand a better understanding of what that was all about. And let me tell you, from anything from our group chats that we have, on our phones, to in-person events to be able to learn and collaborate together. Prime example, I just got back today from a content photo shoot and video shoot with a number of different agents. We're all independent agents, but it's really about collaboration over competition. We love to see each other succeed. And should it have not have been for that community that I can tap into at 11:30 p.m. when I'm in the midst of
Yeah.
negotiating a deal, and even discussing the best approach to certain deals, I don't know that I would have been able to get to where I am today. I've learned an enormous amount on social media and how to source business from
Yeah.
social media as well, and that's all through the various workshops that the community at Real and the various people who have experience in that have been able to guide me along the way.
Yeah, and it's really important because, there are brick and mortars that are just as, welcoming, and there are brick and mortars that are not. There are online
Mhm.
companies that are different. And, you have to figure out what's right for you, because if you're the type of person that can't work from home and needs to be in an office space, what are
Mhm.
your options? If you're more of, I work independently, but I like collaboration. So you really have to dig deep when you're starting in this business. And I mean, the great news is that, with all this social media and with all this online training, COVID was terrible, but it did come up with a lot of benefits for real estate agents. I mean, I can learn something in half the time that 15 years
100%.
ago, nothing was around that would help at all,
Well,
really.
something as simple as the way that our clients retrieve the keys to their property the day
Yes,
of,
I
I think
know.
COVID there's some good things that have come out of COVID, but, now most of the times they're given the code to the lockbox and able
Yeah.
to retrieve the keys. But before that, there was the whole, having to go to the lawyer's office to pick up the keys and so on and so forth. It
And
still happens, but yes,
signing documents.
yes,
Remember those? Oh my God. I remember driving to Mississauga from
yeah. I
Richmond
drove.
Hill to give a check to the office. I mean, things were really different. So I'm really glad for those. Now,
Yeah.
so you've been in it for a year, you've made
Mhm.
a great success. Can you share some of the top lessons that you've learned in your first year that maybe could
Mhm.
help somebody else
Mhm.
besides picking your brokerage? Because that's number one. We know, do a
Yeah.
bang up job picking your brokerage and the people you're going to be around. But once you get that settled, what are some top things that maybe you can share that you learned along the way?
Mhm. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is, I take my job very seriously. I take the fact that your clients are entrusting you potentially with their largest asset. And it's not just a monetary value asset, it's also an asset that affects their lives. When we're discussing residential, it affects their family and how their lives are to be lived going forward with a transaction in real estate. And it's really, really important that you understand that it can be, and in most cases, is a very emotional process for the client. And you, as a realtor, need to remove the emotion out of it. The reason why you're in that position is really to be able to guide them from a logical, operational, and strategic standpoint. So as a new agent, it's only natural that you care so much and you want to do right by your clients. And it's not about winning or losing the deal when you're interacting with another agent on the other end. It's really about asking the right questions and understanding where they're coming from, what their clients' requirements are, and how the two of you can work together to bring the deal together. It's not about who's getting what in the negotiations. Of course, that's a part of it, but I do find sometimes egos can kind of come at play with all of that. And it's not about the agents, it's about the two parties that we're trying to bring together in a neutralized space.
And they both have to feel like they've won. That's the
Hmm.
key to good negotiations, right? Both parties have to feel like they have won. They've walked away with what they needed in order to move forward.
Hmm.
And when you can come from that point of negotiation, right? Like you said, it's not about us at all. It's about fighting for what your clients think is most important to them and coming to an agreement that everyone's happy with.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. The other piece of advice that I would also give to a new agent is to not be afraid to put yourselves in rooms where you feel uncomfortable. Who
Yes.
you surround yourself with matters. I heard a really interesting statistic the other day that if you sit next to a high producing person, chances are your productivity will increase by 15% just
Wow.
by the unique factor that you're in that environment with another high
Yep.
producer.
I believe
If
that.
if you were to sit next to someone who is not a high producer, your productivity level actually goes down by 30%.
Wow.
So the gap is enormous.
Yeah.
And what my advice would be is to not be afraid. Some people tend to gravitate towards the rooms where they feel like they can take a lot of space. And I remember my very first meeting, where it was kind of like a seminar being given with a number of local agents that were invited, and there was a panel. There was also a few guest speakers, and I remember feeling so small, so insignificant in that room, and everyone seemed to know each other. But what I learned and what I absorbed and what I took out of that because of, my position on the totem pole, still to this day has served me well and has guided me thoroughly. Not only that, but I made those connections with those
Yeah.
people where those people are now my peers.
Yes.
And these are the kind of people that I can call on and rely on. And I've actually transacted with a few of them. So don't be afraid to put yourself in rooms where you feel small, because that's where there's growth. That's where you're basically raising the floor, and bringing yourself up along with it.
And you just get in there and you say, that will be me one day. I am going to
Mhm.
be right where you are. And just keep that confidence high because, you have skills. Everyone has different skills and you can shine whichever way you want to shine, right? And don't be
Mhm.
intimidated because, I mean, that's why a lot of people don't put themselves out there on video. They don't, reach out to other agents to meet up and just have lunch and try to build relationships. I mean, that's really important because honestly, especially if you're in a specific area, right? Like you
Yep.
want to know the other agents and have good relationships with them because they can make or break the deals that you're trying to get to put together. So,
Absolutely.
very, very
Absolutely.
important. Well, thank you for all of that information. So, do you have some lofty goals for 2025?
I do, of course. I live and die by my goals.
That's
So
awesome.
yes, I do have a number of pretty high goals. I am looking to nearly double the amount of transactions this year. 2025 is already off to a very good start. I do believe that we're going to see a really nice increase in activity in the spring market as
Yeah.
well. So a lot of transactions being lined up for then, but mostly is to really be able to do this. And thank you, Sarah, for allowing me the opportunity of sharing a little bit of my story. Because if there's one thing that I can do to help someone else out there that is where I was a year ago or
Yeah.
so, I'm definitely it would be my pleasure to help anyone out there. But the goals are big, and the saying is, if you uh, it's something, if you shoot for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars.
That's awesome. I
And
love it. And
that's my believer.
I don't doubt that you will probably surpass your goals. And for people that don't know, I mean, all around the world, really, interest rates are high.
Mhm.
People are suffering with unemployment and cost of living. So the fact that you've done so well in such a tough market, like when things pick up, girl, you're just going to fly.
That's the goal.
Well, I'm going to let you go with one last question. If you
Sure.
could give my audience just one piece of advice, what would that be?
It's never impossible and never to give up.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's if you see agents out there around you that are succeeding, it's possible for you too. You just need to figure out how. And it may not look exactly like how they're doing it, but you can do it. If someone out there is doing it, you can do it too.
That is amazing. I want to thank you so much for being here today. And why don't you tell the audience if anybody wants to reach out to you, what area you work in again? So you never know,
Yeah.
somebody might need to buy or sell or rent and they might need some help. Why don't you let us know how we can reach out to you?
Absolutely. So I cover from a real estate standpoint, I cover from West GTA all the way through to Niagara area, most commonly, mostly in Burlington, Hamilton. And best way to reach me is on socials on Instagram, at the Real Janelle. And you have all of my contact info on there. That would be the best way to reach me.
That is awesome. So thank you so much. You've provided such great value to my audience. I am sure we might get some questions along the way. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Remember that information without implementation is the definition of insanity. So go out there, everybody, and be your best. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to today's podcast. I hope you're walking away with insights you can put into action right now. Remember, every top agent started where you are now, so keep pushing, stay consistent, and know that the work you're doing today is building your success tomorrow. Until next time, keep it real and keep chasing your goals with grit and determination. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and if you want to connect with me, check out sarahwhite.ca or find me on socials at Sarah White Broker. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.